This is Cato Weekly Video. Can the values of modern liberals coexist with the welfare state those values helped create? Daniel Shapiro suggests that market-friendly solutions are often far friendlier to the values of egalitarians, communitarians, and liberals alike. In his book, Is the Welfare State Justified? He spoke at a Cato Policy Forum Monday, October 29, 2007. This is a segment of a longer event available for download at cato.org.
Someone once called Social Security the crown jewel of the welfare state. There's some. If anybody knows the source of that quote. Well, let's first start with what the features of Social Security are. We're probably familiar with that here, but it's probably worth reminding us. So the basic features of Social Security is that it's a pay-as-you-go system. Workers' taxes are sent straight to retirees, and it has a predictable early and late stage. In the early stage, payroll taxes are low. Beneficiaries, if they stay alive long enough, get a really great above-market rate of return. And the implicit public pension debt, the liability for future expected benefits, is low at that point. In the later stage, which we're in now, everything else is reversed. Later generations get a poor rate of return below the rate of market. And we have high payroll taxes and a huge implicit public pension debt, not reduced by the trust fund in D.C. The trust fund is just a record of transfers of how much excess Social Security taxes went to fund other government programs. Now, by contrast, what would a compulsory private pension system be? That's what I look at as my alternative. The model here is something like Chile, which privatized its system about 25 years ago, and various versions of this have been tried in milder forms in other countries, not completely. But in that case, people invest their own contributions and get a good market rate of return. Get a good market rate of return above what you see in the earlier stages of the pay-go system. The government requires that you have your pension savings account, which you own, and provide some general revenue subsidies for people with inadequate or non-existent pensions. Now, given this comparison, Social Security versus, I'll stop saying compulsory private pensions if that's okay. I'll just say, if you like an acronym, CPP or just private pensions, but understand this is just, it gets too wordy to say it. So, once you understand this, and once you understand the egalitarian principles, it seems clear that for egalitarians, the compulsory CPP system should be a slam dunk choice, an obvious choice. First of all, you don't choose when you're born. Okay, that would be the classic example of something that you don't have control over. So the intergenerational differences in Social Security count heavily against Social Security and in favor of a system that basically doesn't have them, which is basically true for compulsory private system, where all generations get a good, basically, market rate of return. Now, you might an egalitarian might try defending Social Security on the grounds that, okay, well, intergenerationally there are these problems, but intergenerationally there's problems, but maybe intragenerationally it's a better system because we have within the system some kind of redistribution from the wealthy to the poor, assuming for the sake of argument that that's what an egalitarian would want. But not to get too polishy wonkish, when I researched this, and actually here I looked at work done by the Brookings Institute, it's very unclear that there's even that redistribution. There is a progressive benefit formula which can help lower income workers, but people who are higher income tend to enter the workforce later and they live longer, so that may balance out any effects here. But the strongest argument for a compulsory private system, if you're an egalitarian, seems to me, is that it allows for far greater scope for choice and responsibility. We have to remember the choice principle and the responsibility principle. Egalitarian justice requires that individuals be allowed to act on their own conception of the good life. And different views of the good life, different views of the life one wishes to leave, translate into different savings and retirement decisions. For instance, how much do I want to save at a different time? When should I retire? What kind of retirement do I want? Compulsory private pension system is clearly superior to Social Security here because it has room for those decisions within limits. No CPP system allows complete laissez-faire. While in Social Security, you're not saving for your own retirement anyway, but you're forced into a tax and transfer pay-go system. Now, of course, today there is a flourishing market in private pensions, but many citizens, particularly less affluent ones, are not part of this market, whereas in a compulsory private pension system, virtually everyone has a pension savings account and have far greater choices about planning for their retirement. The virtually everyone needs to be stressed here. CP system enables the poor and the less affluent to enter and participate in a system of individual ownership and control by making them all investors in their retirement, all owners of capital. Egalitarians, seem to me, ought to be jumping up and down with enthusiasm for this. This is absolutely a terrific thing. It means they would own a significant chunk of capital. They would have accumulated assets they could pass on to their children, unlike in Social Security, where at best you get some survivor's benefits. And the gap between those who own capital and those who don't would be eliminated. I don't mean that people wouldn't own different amounts of capital, unless you think I made a crazy comment. But I mean that, for instance, in the state I come from or in other states, you have a large number of people that retire really without any assets. By making this a universal compulsory private pension system, you basically get a system where virtually everybody, or almost everybody, the restaurant worker or the truck driver could end up with a significant chunk of assets. This seems to me a terrific result if you think justice requires minimizing unchosen inequalities.
Daniel Shapiro is author of the book, Is the Welfare State Justified? This is Cato Weekly Video. You may subscribe to Cato Weekly Video at YouTube. The username is one word, Cato Weekly Video.